Last of Us Part 1 10 details you should know. It seems that Naughty Dog isn't done with The Last of Us just yet. Not a surprise considering it's one of the most critically acclaimed storytelling games originally released on the PlayStation 3. But Naughty Dog decided to remaster the game with better overall graphics featured in 2014 along with the release of the PS4. Fast forward to 2022 and it seems that The Last of Us Part 1 is getting a next-gen treatment once again as the team of developers over at the big company has given us the exciting news that we'll get to witness a remake of the game from the ground up. Today on Xputer, we'll be looking at 10 things about The Last of Us Part 1 remake that you didn't know about. Number 1. The launch date. It's official, the game is finally coming out in 2022. Much to everyone's surprise, Naughty Dog has set the release for the game as early as September of 2022. This pretty much took us by shock, considering that it takes years upon years of polishing and refinement to get a game off the ground. Still, Naughty Dog has to make sure that they nail it and pay tribute to the original video game without upsetting the fans, or any of us for that matter. We hope the game doesn't get predictable AAA treatment where the developers delay the game, promise us in-game content, and finally give us an unfinished product. Though it's never been a problem with Naughty Dog if you ask us, but we can never be too sure. The date is set for September 2nd, 2022, so mark your calendars. The game will first make its way to the PS5 on the release date and will later grace our screens for Windows and PC. The release was released via a leaked product listing. Since then, Sony followed up with a trailer on its official website as well as its YouTube channel, but the information in the trailers have been taken down ever since. Number 2. It's a remake, not a remaster. We've seen the remastered version of the game before on the PlayStation 4. It was ported over from PS3 with some improvements in the frame rate, graphical fidelity, foliage, and character models. We also got to see tons of improvements in the physics engine, as well as the overall terrain that the post-apocalyptic zombie-infested world of Last of Us came with. But you'd be surprised to know that the game was the one and the same as PS3 port. Sure, the textures were a bit upscaled with all the necessary improvements that fans complained about, but it was practically the same game as before, just running a whole lot better. So you might be wondering, why don't we just pop in The Last of Us back from 2014 and enjoy it with the improved visuals on my PS5? Why do I need to buy the game again? Well, the game is not the same this time. A remaster and a remake are not the same thing, although the two names sound pretty similar. See, a remaster is the same game with a few improvements by the developers, but a remake is an entirely different story. With the remake, the developers will not be reusing any of the old assets, character models, textures, skyboxes, or any of the little bits and pieces. The source code for the game won't be the same either. They're literally making another game that's set to cater to the next-gen era. The game will feature new assets, revamped graphics, new textures, and even ray-traced lighting. And considering the density of the game, the asset placements, and the multiple interactable objects within the game, it will look pretty different this time. Number 3. The story and the characters might change. Since the game is a remake, the story might be fine-tuned a bit, the dialogue might change a little, and we might see some alternate endings. Who knows? The developers might end up changing some of the main cast characters and character models for the game. We've seen this happen before with Spider-Man PS4, which featured a mature-looking Peter Parker that was traded off for a younger Peter Parker for the PS5 release. We don't have a problem with this, as change is always good, but some veteran fans of Last of Us Part 1 might not take a liking to this. We might even get some mixed reviews over the game as it lacks the authenticity of the original game, but hey, that's what a remake is. The story, the characters, and even the dialogue change a lot. Final Fantasy VII has seen many changes in terms of dialogue and story, but that is another case altogether. Number 4. The price tag. Video games are sure getting more and more expensive these days. We would generally be looking at a $60 price tag on a AAA video game, but things seem to be different this time. The Last of Us Part 1 remake has a flabbergasting $70 price tag with that 1 cent removed. We hope to see a reduced price tag for the game, but we got a price bump instead. The game will also feature a collector's version with a $100 price tag. The Firefly collector's version will come with a steel bookcase, some additional real-life goodies, and probably some in-game items. Personally, we don't care for the in-game items, but the idea of a steel bookcase seems pretty great, to be honest. The Firefly edition of the game will also feature a 4-issue comic by the name Last of Us American Dreams. We aren't sure if it'll be a good read or not. Guess we'll have to wait until it's finally out. The digital edition of the game, fortunately, will cost you an additional $10 over the base game for a total of $80 with the promise of a few special in-game items. Number 5. Prequel is included. If you thought that you were just getting The Last of Us Part 1 remake, well, you were wrong, because Naughty Dog has made sure to remake everything that was made for the game till the time content was finally discontinued for it. The Last of Us remake will also feature a prequel for the game, which was added as an expansion in 2014. Players had to wait nearly 8 months to get their hands on the prequel story, and now they can enjoy it built from the ground along with the main story. Number 6. Accessibility options. While the original Last of Us barely touched upon its accessibility options, The Last of Us Part 2 did a lot in terms of providing aid for those with disabilities. The game made sure the players with disabilities ranging from color blindness, physical disabilities, low vision, and maybe even complete blindness could enjoy the game. The game featured text-to-speech, audio cues, change in colors and contrast, motor accessibility presets, and the ability to fully change control schemes so that the players could enjoy the game regardless of the handicaps. It's highly likely that these accessibility options will return once more for The Last of Us Part 1 remake so that everyone can enjoy the game to its full extent. Number 7. Joel's character model. We got to see the trailer and there's a lot to take in, to be honest. The game has changed drastically. As we said, it's certainly not the same game that we saw 7 years ago. Joel's character model has changed drastically. The character model for Joel in the original game featured an unrealistic Joel with very sharp textures on his clothing. His hair looked passable but was mostly unrealistic. His facial features were a bit too sharp around 2014, but now they look all the more realistic. When you see Joel in the 2022 adaptation of the game, you will see a lot more life in his character model. His clothes genuinely look real and less stiff, and his clothes look worn out and actually soft like real fabric. He looks like a man with life in his eyes, the determination to survive and live on. His wrinkles and facial features look lifelike. His hair, for one, is incredibly detailed, and you certainly can't tell if it's a fake. Number 8. Ellie's character model. Joel's character isn't the only one who had an upgrade. Now Ellie's character model is a day and night change. Her original character model looked like a creepy doll that's now quite noticeable. She had some beady bug eyes with really straight hair that just looked fake. She looks like a porcelain doll in the original game, but the 2022 version looks like a genuine child. Her facial expressions are much more lifelike. She has actual facial cues, and her clothing looks like it's been through hell, rain, and dirt. Her bruises and the dirt and the debris on her face looked pretty good. The hair's a big improvement as it looks much more realistic this time around. Number 9. Better stealth and gameplay. The Last of Us Part 1 was a good game, but the movements, gameplay, the difficulty options weren't all that impressive. They haven't aged well, and if you look at The Last of Us Part 2, a lot has changed over the years. The game's difficulty options can be fine-tuned in accordance with the user's needs and experience. You can change visibility, stealth difficulties, enemy behavior, and AI aggressiveness. The game can become all the more realistic by limiting the resources you can find and the amount of ammo you get handed out. The movements of the original game were a bit clunky, but fluidity has been a big focus over the years at Naughty Dog, and we hope that the remake intends to make use of the technical prowess Naughty Dog has accumulated over the years. Stealth was a pretty small part of The Last of Us Part 1, but Part 2 made sure to incorporate it into all aspects. Players could skip firefights and other obstacles just by being good at the stealth sequences of the game. Hopefully we'll get to see it in the remake as well. Number 10. Gunplay. The Last of Us Part 1's gunplay was passable if you ask us. It was pretty good back in 2014, but now it just doesn't hold up that well. Naughty Dog has acquired lots of experience with third-person shooters over the years with the release of their past 6 AAA titles, and it's safe to say that they've pretty much nailed it. The developers will surely revamp the core gunplay mechanics of the game. They did so with Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us Part 2, so it's safe to say that we'll be seeing revamped gun mechanics in this remake. The nearly perfected gameplay paired with the PS5's haptic feedback system will surely make the remake an experience worth living. And that's all we had in store for today's Last of Us Part 1 remake, which will surely grace your screens as soon as September. Are you excited for the game? Do you think the developers will do right by our longtime favorite? Let us know in the comment section below. We'll catch you next time on Xputer with more news from the video game world. Bye now.